Good morning and welcome to another edition of United Way for Southeastern Michigan's What's the Word Wednesday. My name is Amanda Klein and today we will be joined by Rebekah Islam, the Executive Director for APIA Vote, to discuss communities of interest and the part they will play within the redistricting process. Just a reminder that the last 10 minutes of today's conversation are reserved for questions, so please leave your questions in the Q&A box if you're watching on Zoom or in the comment box on Facebook. Now, I would like to welcome United Way's President and CEO, Dr. Darian Hudson, to say a few words.
Thank you, Amanda, and good morning, everyone, and welcome back to What's the Word Wednesday. Today, we are going to be discussing something that many of you may not be familiar with, but will play an important role in our redistricting process: communities of interest. In 2018, voters passed Proposal 2, which puts everyday Michiganders in charge of drawing the voting district lines that determine who we vote for to represent us in the state and federal government. And if you've been paying attention to anything that's happening in local news, national news recently, you understand why this is of utmost importance. The Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission will be responsible for drawing Michigan's voting districts by November 1st. As part of this process, commissioners must collect information on the needs of communities of interest, which can be best defined as a group of any size whose members share cultural, economic, historic, and or other shared interests. This means that for the first time in our state's history, communities across the state now have an opportunity to give input and make sure Michigan's election district maps result in better representation for all. Today, Rebekah Islam, the Executive Director of APIA Vote, will be sharing a bit about communities of interest and how you can get involved in the redistricting process. Rebekah and her family immigrated from Bangladesh to Hamtramck when she was 5 years old. Rebekah experienced firsthand how lack of opportunities and lack of awareness from leaders was leaving her community behind. That experience helped her grow a strong desire to involve herself in community service so that she can help bring positive changes in communities of immigrants and minorities. For the past decade, Rebekah has worked with Asian Pacific Islander American Vote, MI, which is APIA Vote MI, in varying capacities from youth intern to serving now as executive director. And I think that's Rebecca. Prior to this role, Rebekah worked for the Michigan Roundtable for Diversity and Inclusion, the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, and the Skillman Foundation. Rebekah is also a graduate of Wayne State University. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Rebekah Islam to speak with us today. Rebekah, you are most welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Hudson. Whenever United Way calls, I can never say no. So thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Oh, we're so glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay. Are we all able to see my screen okay?
Yes, we are.
Okay, perfect. Thank you again, Dr. Hudson. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Rebekah Islam, and I am the Executive Director for Asian Pacific Islander American Vote Michigan, so API Vote Michigan, commonly known. And we are a nonprofit grassroots organization that is really just committed to the justice and equity for the Asian American community. And our goal really is to increase civic engagement, participation amongst Asian Americans here in Michigan. And a lot of the work that we do, we focus on making sure that APIs have access to voting, but also voter registration and advocating for policies and providing census education. And this year, we're extremely excited to be involved in the redistricting process. As Dr. Hudson mentioned, this is the first year that citizens will get to decide how maps are drawn. But I just want to give folks a little bit more background of some of the recent work that API Vote Michigan has done. So our work, we're just extremely proud of the work that we did in mobilizing API communities for the 2020 election, which we all know was a historic election. And our accomplishments included registering over 10,000 API voters, engaging over 400,000 APIs, which led to a historic API voters turnout amongst our population. And the most recent event that we've held with the recent uprising of anti-Asian hate crimes happening throughout the country, our organization organized a rally in Detroit that was supported by over 35 community organizations. And with over 300 people showing up to our rally, it really showed solidarity and support. But it also meant we're waking up, that people who are typically silent for whatever reason are now raising their voices because they are just outraged with everything that's happening. And we're taking the same momentum, and we're having a rally in Troy this upcoming Sunday. And I hope that some of the viewers here on Zoom or on Facebook watching will take a moment to join us on Sunday as we raise our voices together as a community. So today, I'm here to talk about redistricting and communities of interest. And I am by no means an expert, but like I said, when Amanda called, I couldn't say no, so I had to jump on. But APIA Vote Michigan, we are a part of a cohort with 20 other community organizations that was created by Michigan Nonprofit Association. And this cohort was created to really get the message out and get the community involved in redistricting. We want to empower communities of interest and communities of color to get them involved in this historic moment of redistricting. So the slides that I'll be sharing today has been prepared by Michigan Nonprofit Association, and they do a wonderful job of explaining the redistricting process, and I'll share more of their information at the end of my presentation here. So what is redistricting? We've all been hearing it. So redistricting is a process of literally redrawing district boundaries that gives and guarantees voters equal voter representation. And the United States, there are 47 states, including Michigan, with more than one congressional representative, and I'll talk more about that. Every 10 years, redistricting takes place right after the US Census that we did in 2020. And the census provides an updated information on the number of people living in every current legislative district. And I just want to give everyone a little background of what the government in Michigan looks like. The Michigan state government is made out of 38 state senators and 110 House of Representatives that are sitting in Lansing, Michigan, and they basically decide what goes on in our state. And then at a federal level, we have the 14 US congressional representatives from Michigan and the 2 US senators from Michigan as well. So the House and the Senate basically make decisions that involve policies around agriculture, education, energy, local and municipal financing, tax policies, similar with the Senate as well, education policies, finance, insurance, and banking. So basically, they decide everything that we deal with on a daily basis is decided by the House and the Senate. And when the key factor is that when these politicians are currently drawing maps, is that every district has an equal number of population in each district or each legislative district. And the number of people is divided by the number of legislators in the House and state. And the size of the district is determined by the population. It's a bit complicated, but for us to know is that every district needs to have an equal number of population. So every 10 years when the complete counts come in, when the census data is returned, the population is divided into district. And again, we just need to make sure that everyone has an equal number. So yeah, I'll just leave it at that. We just need to make sure that there is equal number of people in each district. So as Dr. Hudson mentioned, the new independent commission that's happening right now, before 2021, whatever political party was in charge in the year following the US Census could draw the map to give its candidate an advantage, which often hurts underrepresented communities and communities of color. Again, as Dr. Hudson mentioned, in 2018, Michigan passed a law that maps should not favor politicians, but should favor the people that it's serving. And so the law mandated that we create a Michigan's Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. And again, the Michigan's new Independent Commission is a bipartisan, nonpartisan redistricting commission that is responsible for drawing district maps instead of political parties doing that. And the law requires that they carry out a open and transparent public policy, that they follow a strict criteria for map drawing, and I'll touch on some of those in the later slides, that they use the US 2020 census data, and citizens have an input in determining the district lines no later than November 1st. That date is most likely going to be changing, as the US Census data delivery date has been pushed back to September 31st. The Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission is now working on signing petitions to adjust that date, so that's still pending. The Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission is made up of 13 randomly selected Michigan voters, registered voters, and they are 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and 5 unaffiliated, so those who do not affiliate with the party. And these 13 commissioners will go to draw the maps. They need to make sure that they meet the following criteria. They need to make sure that districts are equally populated. Every district has the same amount of folks in there, and they are geographically continuous, and it also reflects the interest of communities of interest. And most importantly, it doesn't give an advantage to any political party. And they also need to consider that county, city, township boundaries are also connected, and reasonably compact, meaning reasonably connected and sized together. So what is communities of interest? Communities of interest are people who share common culture, history, and economic interest of the population, such as they all have a commitment to the quality of their neighborhood schools, the uniqueness of their neighborhood, the number of renters or homeowners that are in that neighborhood, and school funding. When we talk about communities of interest, we commonly think that it's talking about race and ethnicity, which is true, but that's not the only way to look at communities of interest. The Michigan Constitution defines communities of interest as communities of interest may include, but shall not be limited to, populations that share culture or historic characteristic or economic interest. And then this part is really important. Communities of interest do not, again, they do not include relationships with political parties or any political candidates. So that's the most important part, because that's what has been happening. And we want to make sure that that is exactly what's not happening. There is no favor in political parties. Communities of interest include shared religious groups. So people of one religion worshiping in one area, ethnic groups, historic neighborhoods, a shared language, and we see that a lot with the API community. Just an overall sense of belonging in that community that folks decide to identify with. And it's so vast. When we say communities of interest, it can mean anything. You know, it could be a shared language that you have, a shared culture, a shared interest in having economic development in one neighborhood. So that's why it's so important that we work with the redistricting commissioners to explain to them what is of value to us, what is of value to our community. So with that, why is it so important that communities of interest are reflected in the map drawings? What's at stake? And there's just so much at stake when we talk about redistricting. It ensures that we have political representation that accurately reflect our communities. And as we saw in the earlier slides, the Senate and the House decide on so much for us. And in the long term, this can also affect things from funding to programs and services to vulnerable communities and communities of color. Services and programs, as we all know, should be addressing the needs of the community. And the needs of the community should be looked at collectively and across district lines. For example, if there is a significant number of individuals who live in an area and have the same needs, we should be addressing those needs collectively, regardless of what side of the district line they reside on. And redistricting is one way to help us correct those issues. And we need to make sure that each and every one of us play our part in the redistricting effort to make sure that we also benefit from the services, the school systems, the programs, the system as a whole that we're contributing to, that our tax dollars are contributing to. So it's really up to us to decide and tell the independent commissioners what kind of maps we want to see drawn. It's really up to us to tell them where we are and how we want maps drawn. And if we want to be kept together and as communities, and our interests be reflected, and the time for us to act is now. You can get involved by, I know I said earlier, I mentioned that maps won't be drawn till later November possibly, but we can start talking about it now. Commissioners are starting to hold town hall meetings. You can get involved by attending meetings that the independent commissioners will be hosting. You can work with your community organizations to draw a community map. When I was younger, we used to do like map drawing workshops. It was like, what is your ideal neighborhood look like? This is our chance to say, this is what my ideal neighborhood looks like. So you can submit maps for the commission to consider. Again, it's really up to us to build those ideal maps and communities that we want to see. So you can attend the town halls, you can attend community meetings, you can submit maps. And I have a list of dates that the commission will be hosting hearings. These will be in-person hearings. Again, with the COVID situation changing so rapidly, that might change, but right now, these are the confirmed confirmed dates, and the locations are still being decided. So attend these public hearings to tell them what you'd like to see on the map. Detroit has 2 of them, and on the 15th and the 17th, sorry, my screen is playing with me. But there will be public hearings, and on the week that the commissioners will be in town, you can also request an additional meeting if your groups decide to meet with them. So the week of June 15th, if you have a group of people who want to meet with the commission, they're also scheduling those. And that's really important for you to, again, I cannot stress how important it is for you to come out and tell your narratives and tell your stories on how you want your maps drawn.
So Rebekah, before you go on, this is Darian Hudson. I just wanted to ask, because we actually have Pontiac, Novi, Dearborn, as well as Warren in our area. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware, like all of these dates are important. And is there this listed somewhere where people can access it?
Yes. Yes. Sorry, I love Detroit. I'm from Detroit, so
no, we all love D. No problem. Just want to make sure, because we're regional, that folks are paying attention to the whole list. Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Go to the nearest location of yours to make sure that you make sure that your voices are heard. Yes. So this list is also posted on the Michigan.gov website, and we will. I'll send the exact link after my presentation as well. And then the Secretary of State's office has it as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yep, thank you. So APIA Vote Michigan, again, we are a nonprofit organization, and we're an organization that works for the community, and we're working with the community to recruit members to get involved in this important work. We are hosting a series of community presentations and webinars to explain the importance of mapping to our community and APIA languages as well. And we plan to present proposed redistricting maps of what our ideal community looks like. I cannot express how much that community voices and inputs are. It's so critical to redistricting. If community voices, and I mean actual residents of these communities, are not at the table as these maps are being drawn, then those residents and their concerns will just remain invisible. We can rally, we can host town halls as much as we want, but unless there is policies in place, then it doesn't benefit us. We're still invisible. And if actual residents of those communities, and when I mean actual individuals, I don't mean anyone who doesn't live outside of the city or your district line and just comes to draw out these maps. If actual residents don't sit at the table and express their needs, those needs will simply not be addressed. And government solutions and policies are only effective if communities show up and come to the table and make sure that their concerns are voiced and their issues are heard. Again, we will be invisible if we don't show up. And then, and just in conclusion, I just want to say, I think following the 2020 election, that each of us understand that weight of each of our elections and each of our votes have, and how we can make an impact together and make a difference. So that my hope is that all of our communities will show up and participate in redistricting efforts whenever possible. And as simple as right now, just having this is something new. All of us are learning together. Like, we've never had an independent redistricting commission before. Other states had it, but we've never had it. So just listening to the commissioners and what they're saying, and what is, because they don't know. Honestly, they don't know unless we tell them. So again, my hope is that all of us will show up, even if it's just one town hall that we attend, one public hearing that we attend. They have their meetings on Zoom right now that you can attend. We have to make sure that our government continues to work on behalf of on behalf of the people that it's supposed to. And how I like to look at it is that it's like the census, right? The redistricting lines, it only comes every 10 years. These maps will be drawn and they'll be with us for the next 10 years. We might get new elected officials, but those maps will remain the same for the next 10 years. So please do your part and don't miss this important opportunity to give your community a voice in the first ever citizen-led redistricting process in Michigan. Again, we will be invisible if we don't show up, and I hope I was able to give everyone a brief overview of communities of interest. And you can learn more about redistricting on our website at apivotemi.org, and also on Michigan Nonprofit's website. And I'll ask the organizers to share this screen or this PDF with everyone after this presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Rebekah. We have several of the links. I know we are going to be sharing them in the next couple of minutes. We do have a couple questions that I would love to ask, just because Sure. It does feel like communities of interest is fairly new. Is this something that has been used in other states that we can kind of model it after, or places that it's been really successful?
Yeah, so there has been other states who have used communities of interest pre-pandemic. They've used it in the last censuses. It's not something new, it's been used. And in Michigan, it's the third, in terms of criterias and priorities, is the third criteria in redistricting. California did this process again in the non-pandemic era. And all the other states, a few other states also, that is one of the criterias, but not necessarily the most important. For Michigan, again, it's the third most important criteria that we're looking at in terms of redistricting.
And what kind of outreach is being done in this COVID recovery world, especially for those who may not have internet or have digital literacy or even a language barrier component? Are there groups that are actively focused on, really reaching out to some of these communities to get them engaged?
Yeah, so as our organization, we know everything about language barriers. I myself, English is my second language, so we know everything about language barriers. And with the 2020 census and us having to pivot so rapidly, and with COVID, we have kind of learned to rely on technology, but then technology doesn't always serve the communities that we serve. So we've done webinars, but what we've also done is mailers. We've sent information in the mail for our communities in language that they understand. We also have done for our census workshops, and we're going to be doing the same with our redistricting workshop, is that we're mailing some of the slides that we are presenting. So we're printing copies and we're mailing it to individuals who request it so that they can follow along. And it's a lot easier for some of our community members to dial in on a phone call than log on into a Zoom call. So, and when it's safe, we are also having few here and there in-person meetings as well.
And if an organization is interested in kind of joining this coalition of other organizations, what is the best website that they should visit to do that? Is that through you? Is that through Voters Not Politicians? Something?
Yeah, Voters Not Politicians is great. They're the group that really encouraged all of us in 2018 and 2017 to really have this independent redistricting commission. So Voters Not Politicians is great. MNAonline.org, Michigan Nonprofit Association. API Vote Michigan, we can always use the support. We want to talk to communities of interest, communities of color. There's just so many ways to get involved. Like I said, there's 20 other organizations that are also doing the same type of work that we're doing in this cohort.
And how do you see this having the greatest impact specifically in the Southeast Michigan region? Communities.
Yeah, there's just so much at stake. Any concern or any issues that you can think of, whether it's language barrier, whether it's border patrol or racial profiling, pollution, refinery marathon happening in Southwest Detroit, anything, Bangladetown, economic contributions in that district, anything that you can think of really is going to be determined by these redistricts or these lines in the districts that are drawn. Like I said, fundings, programs, services, everything is tied to how these maps are drawn.
Well, I know that we are definitely going to be sharing more information as some of the redistricting meetings get closer. And again, I want to thank you so much for being here and sharing with us this information, because it is important for everybody to have a seat at the table. Again, thank you so much for joining us. I think that's all the time we have for questions today. So I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Hudson to say a few closing words.
Well, Rebekah, thank you so much for this important information. And I can't stress enough, regardless of where you live, please take advantage of the opportunity that's been given to us. You don't hear about this in a lot of states. And so all of the dates that Rebekah shared with us, we put it in the chat. We are going to make sure that we get this out to you over the next few weeks, the next few months, so that everyone knows when it's their time to come participate. If I could, Rebekah, can you remind us, you said that there is a rally this weekend against Asian hate. Can you tell us again where it is and the time?
Yes, we are going to be rallying in Troy. Right now, we're looking at a tentative location of Troy City Hall, and it's going to be from 2 to 5 p.m.
Okay. And it's Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday, April 11th.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I just want to make sure that we're doing our part. We do stand with you and all of our Asian brothers and sisters, and just know this is a difficult time for so many of us in our country, and it's important that we all stand up for each other. We continue to spread love and not hate, and spread information and knowledge, which is why today's message was so important. So Rebekah, again, thank you so much for being here with us today. I do have a few reminders for those of you who are listening. We know we shared a lot of information with you. But if you are experiencing a need of any sort, please call 211. You can also go to unitedwaysem.org. This remains to be open and available to the community 24/7. If you are looking to schedule vaccines, you can go to michigan.gov/COVID vaccine to be able to schedule your vaccines. And also, if you happen to call 211, our 211 team will also direct you to the right place to help you get those vaccines scheduled. And when we say help, we mean it. It's housing, it's food, if it's anything with diapers, with rental assistance, with transportation, we are set up to support you. So we hope that you will call in your time of need, and make sure that your neighbors and your friends know how to access this information as well. We also wanted to share an update with you on tax assistance. So we're well aware that the deadline to file has been extended to May 17th. However, we do not want you waiting until the last minute. We encourage you to start this process now. If you need help filing your taxes, there are several free opportunities available to individuals in our region. If your household income last year, so tax year 2020, was below $57,000, you qualify for free virtual assistance from a tax preparation volunteer. Appointments are available now from the Accounting Aid Society and Wayne Metropolitan Community Action Agency, known as Wayne Metro, and can be made online at claimmyrefund.com. And I believe Jessica's putting that in the chat for us as well. I also wanted to share that United Way's My Free Taxes is a free tax filing tool. It's available to anyone regardless of your income, and you can get started. Again, the website is myfreetaxes.com. So, last but not least, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And so, next week, we want to make sure that we are lifting resources for our survivors in our community. And we're honored to be joined by Shelby Nardone, who is a prevention education specialist with Haven. This is going to be next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And if you wish to receive alerts or see previous town halls, you can go to www.unitedwayscm.org/virtual town halls. With that, we end today's program. And again, thank you all for joining us on What's the Word Wednesday, and pray that you all continue to stay safe, stay healthy, and please go get vaccinated and continue to wear your mask. Thank you.